Welcome to Childcare Conversations with Kate and Carrie.
Why do you want to support your staff when they're having a really, really hard time?
Because I'm nice, duh. But here's the better question. Why should you be instead supporting a nonprofit that supports your staff? Because then you have somebody else who has the final word on whether they get that.
Okay, Carrie, you're stealing Meredith's whole thunder. We're all done now. Like that, you just
No,
said
we're not.
Like we're all done. All right. Well, we have Meredith Douglas on today with Boost by Hinge Advisors, and we are excited about the purpose and the mission behind Boost, and we are so glad that Hinge stepped up and put this organization together. And Meredith, if you will tell us a little bit about why Boost came to be, how long y'all have been around, some success stories, and we will probably interrupt you just like we do each other. So maybe that's a warning in advance. I don't know.
Sounds good to me. So I'm Meredith Douglas. I'm the director of fundraising with Boost, which is a nonprofit founded by Hinge Advisors. Yeah. Basically provide support to teachers in need, specifically private preschool teachers, if they have an emergency need. So their car breaks down, they don't have any transportation to get to work, they have any housing needs like overdue utility bills, or even as much as an eviction notice that has come to them. They are coming to their regional director, their business owner, and saying, I need help. I can't pay this emergency medical bill off, or my utility bills, or my mortgage, or my rent. And then that regional director or business owner is coming to Boost and saying, hi, can you help my preschool teacher? And that's what we're here for. We're here to provide that emergency support to get them out of a crisis situation. We're really proud. We've started in like 2024 is when we officially launched applications. And since then, we have helped over 250 teachers, which has been really
that is awesome. And I think what's really cool, and you kind of skated over it or around it, which is supporting those teachers in need. And we all know, Carrie, right, that teachers who are stressed out, they're not going to be any good in the classroom, are they? What do we need to do? How can we support them?
I mean, we give them resources. We give them ways that they can get through the rough times, because I actually spent this morning in the hospital with an educator whose child got admitted to the hospital last night. Oh. And part of check-in was she was told that the insurance was not active. And she was like, excuse me, what? My insurance is not active? Now, I was not responsible for her insurance. So I did a bad thing. But that's how she found out that her insurance wasn't active while her child was in the emergency room, and then later got admitted. So that would be a prime candidate for somebody who might be needing some help from Boost.
Absolutely.
So that is a real life example, and I'm sure Meredith has some other real life examples. And so, but before we talk about another example, if a director or an owner has this issue, where do they go? What does the process look like? And then I think you've got some tips for owners, but let's start with what's the process and what do they do?
So the great thing about our application process is that we try to answer applications within a week of receiving them. So we try to make this as easy as possible, because these are emergency situations. So we know that the teacher will go to, so we don't allow them to go to their center director. We need at least one kind of relationship removal. They need to go at least 2 steps above their role. So that's why I say either a regional director, multi-site manager, or the business owner if it's just a single site center. So that's who the teacher needs to go to ask for the help. And then that person will be their nominator, and they will nominate them. So that's the person who fills out the application, usually with the teacher in need. But as soon as we receive that application, it goes through a review process. We have a specific review team that looks at it and makes sure that they fit all of the eligibility requirements. Is this a licensed preschool center? Is the school in good standing? Is the teacher in good standing? Have they been with the school for 90 plus days? So you can see all of these things on our website at boostbyhinge.org. But then once the review process is done and we're saying, yes, this is a good candidate, we will send the money to the teacher immediately. So we try to answer these things as quickly as possible. One step in between getting the money and the application is we do require teachers to do a financial jumpstart course, which is a 45-minute, very quick and easy course, but it's just something to help them kind of prevent the next emergency. These are things that they can do to kind of become more financially stable, so that when the next emergency hits, which hopefully doesn't for a while, they can kind of handle it themselves. But Boost, like you said, you try to give them resources. Boost also wants to be that resource. So we have a director of teacher success who helps all of the teachers who have gone through the application process, whether they were given support or they were ineligible and we were unable to. We will still connect them with community resources. So local resources that they have. We've done a lot of research. So all of the main cities where people have submitted applications from, we have a list of resources for housing needs, food insecurity needs, anything that we can connect them to if we can't be that support for them in that time. So that's our biggest goal, is to be a resource and a support, even if it's not a check at the end of the day. But we still want to be a resource to teachers going through any kind of financial instability.
No, I love that. And I love the financial jumpstart class. I mean, it's been a little while since I was a director, and I was actually one of Carrie's directors. And so Carrie had 4 sites. And one of the things that was great that we did with for our staff, because we had a pretty significant amount of staff that would do the whole, can I just get that payroll advance for just a couple days, my car this, my child that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that center served it was 85-90% subsidy, and we hired from that same community. Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of people who this job was a stepping stone out of poverty. And so, yeah, they had a lot more challenges than people at some of my other centers.
And we absolutely loved what some of the banks were doing at the time. So we collaborated with some banks, with some credit unions about offering almost a very similar class. And then we started opening it up to our parents. And so whenever those topics come up, we always tell folks, look, we did this back
a while ago. Yeah. Just say a while ago. You don't need to be putting years on stuff. Yeah. No.
You mean I shouldn't say more than 1 decade ago?
Shush. A while ago.
Okay, a while ago. And so we just felt that it was a great community builder. And again, depending on that community, there are, especially if you think about the owner, right? Especially if that owner's got that connection, that owner probably is part of the Chamber of Commerce. Hopefully they've got a relationship with a personal banker and a bank. A lot of those banks have classes very similar to what you're talking about. And so why wait until folks are in the, excuse my French, the oh shit situation? Right? Bleep, beep, beep, beep. Sorry. It's my version of childcare. I was a little late. But we want to make sure that, our staff get these skills ahead of time. And why not also share that with the parents? So,
I think making sure that Boost is there for your staff and for your staff 5 years, 6 months, 3 days from now is the other part of it. And that is, instead of putting money aside inside your business for when one of your staff has a, oh my goodness moment, you can instead give it to Boost, and then you get a tax write-off for that, where if you just give them money to pay for, and I'm going to use the real life example I talked about before we started recording, they needed $1,000 so that their cat could get some lab work done. If you were to decide that, yes, that $1,000 was important, sometimes we make those decisions with our emotions and not our logic. And by putting money into Boost, whether it's $20 a month, and then when you have somebody who comes to you crying because their cat needs lab work and they don't have $1,000, you can go, I hope that Boost can help you with that. Here's the process. Let's go through that. And then you're not the person saying, no, your cat's lab work is not the same as this other parent whose kid is in the hospital.
Yes,
and so we're going to spend that $1,000 on the person whose kid's in the hospital. And they're like, but my cat is my baby. And I get that from an emotional standpoint. But you as the owner or you as the director telling someone that their cat needing $1,000 of lab work versus somebody else's child needing $1,000 lab work is not the same. That's horrible on your employee morale, and there's conflict between your staff. It's the same $1,000 that you set aside for an emergency. But this way, there's a little bit more distance and there's a tax benefit. So
Absolutely.
I like that.
All right. So
Let
Meredith,
Boost be your third-party decision maker for situations like that.
Absolutely.
That's what
So
we're
Meredith,
here for.
yeah. So tell us a little bit more about how an owner might go about doing that. Do you guys ever have? And if not, maybe here's my challenge, right? I'm going to put this out to some of the big companies, right? Some match opportunities. So maybe there's a time of the year where XYZ program with 300 locations is going to match $1 for $1 for some of the smaller programs. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Okay. But are there ways? How does an owner get started donating? How do they know where to even start? Like, what's the process? Run me through. I'm a director. I got a few sites. I see this as a huge benefit to maybe like in Carrie's case. Carrie had 4 sites, but only one school really had staff that kind of fell in that bucket consistently. What do I need to do?
There's a few ways people can get involved. So anyone who has submitted an application to Boost where a teacher has been approved and received money, feel free. We will welcome your donation for the same amount back into the organization. And like Kate and Carrie said, it's tax deductible. So you get to write that off at the end of the year. And it also helps us continue to give to the next teacher in need. You can do that by breaking it down into monthly payments, which is a big push that we're doing right now. We would love to have more monthly donors. We only have about 4 or 5 right now.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yes. So we want people to give. It helps us because it's consistent in money coming in to our organization that we can count on, that we know is coming in every single month. So monthly donations are incredible for our organization. Or just doing a lump sum donation that just helps us keep going. We launched at Shift Conference this year our Boost It Forward Fund, which allowed people to pledge an amount that they were going to give in 2026. We are so grateful. We got
wait. I just want to tell everybody, Childcare Conversations has a pledge. And so we would love it for folks to definitely this week. So if you have not gone over and checked out our link on Podsqueeze, Podsqueeze is one of the podcast platforms that Childcare Conversations uses. And they are doing a lot of promotion this week. And so we would love to see more people kind of jump on board. Sorry, Meredith, I didn't mean to hijack.
No, I love the promotion. Keep it going. That's great. Anyone who wants to make a pledge for 2026 or give as part of your Boost It Forward Fund pledge that maybe you've already made, or to support the Childcare Conversations pledge that they made, please do get involved. It was one thing to help kind of people say, hey, yeah, I do want to give. This is what I want to give next year. And then be able to plan a way to either fundraise that on their own throughout the year, or create some kind of function so that they know that they are going to be giving to Boost in 2026. So we got 149,000 Pledges, about 15,000 of those have been paid already. It's early in the year still, so we know that those will be coming in later this year, but it's just money that Boost can count on for the year as well. So that's one way to give. There are multiple different ways to give to Boost, but we do encourage those who are submitting teachers in their own schools to give back into the Boost so that we can continue caring for teachers throughout the year.
Absolutely. So I think one thing that is really important for those of you who have any experience in nonprofits, just participation. So whether it's an arts program in your community or even a political action campaign that's wrapped around early childhood, this is one of those situations where one of the biggest things that Hinge does is Hinge picks up the staff cost. So, when you're donating to Boost, you are literally donating to the fund that goes to
all of that money is going
the
directly
teachers.
to a teacher in need.
Yeah.
All
There's
of it.
not a, and you got a little bit here for overhead and a little bit here for this staff. Having spent a really ridiculous amount of time in that world, I can tell you that I just think that this is the one thing that if you aren't sure, do your research. I mean, absolutely. If you are historically an end of the year donor for different nonprofits, do your research, but go look up Boost and go look at how much of their money actually goes to the end user. Because I think you'll be really surprised, especially if you compare it to your local YMCA, your local church. There's a lot of places where the money that's donated do not end up in, animal programs, because I love animal programs, but a lot of times the overhead is huge. And so we really hope that you will take that opportunity to actually do your research. I can tell Carrie's got a question, so I'm going to turn it over to
Yeah,
Carrie.
well, I was actually just thinking about when I used to volunteer at the local animal shelter, and one time geese were dropped off, and they had no support system for how to support geese. A donkey and
isn't it
geese.
duck, goose? Like you said, they got all their ducks. Their ducks were in the wrong pond. They had the wrong animal. That wasn't even like
Yep.
in a row.
So that was, that's where my brain was going, was like you talking about the things not being prepared at a nonprofit. And I was like, they said that they help all the animals. And somebody was like, here, have a donkey and some geese. And I think that is part of what we in early childhood, sometimes we prepare for stuff, for what is the normal everyday things that are going to happen at your program. And occasionally a donkey shows up, meaning something weird happens at your program and you need an outside resource. And I think Boost is an amazing outside resource for when somebody has an unexpected medical expense or housing expense or something like that. They are a person who keeps all their money, under the mattress, and somebody broke in and stole their mattress. And now they're like, what am I going to do for groceries next week? Those kinds of situations are what Boost is there for.
I'm going to look at somebody driving around with a mattress on top of their car in a whole new light. I just want you to know I'm now going to be going, somebody stole that mattress. I don't know why. Carrie's got geese. I got mattresses on top of cars. So with that, Meredith, what would you like to tell folks who are listening? Again, usually it's directors and owners all around the globe. So we don't have just folks in the U.S. We've got folks in other countries. What should they do? How do they do it? It's all yours.
Well, right now, Boost only serves U.S.-based private preschools. So, but if you are from outside the country and you want to support us, you are more than welcome to make a donation. Anyone is welcome to make a donation, always. I think the first thing is go to boostbyhinge.org. Get to know a little bit more about the types of situations that we'll cover for emergency grants to teachers. Learn more ways about how you can get involved with us. Our Boost It Forward Fund is live on the website, so you can make a pledge or make a donation. You can do a monthly donation, a quarterly donation, just a one lump sum donation to us. You can also see all of the resources that we have available. So all of those local resources that I referenced, they're all on our website as well. So if you're from Cleveland, Ohio, or from Raleigh in North Carolina, we have a specific document, a PDF that you can just click and kind of reference. Oh, this is a resource for housing needs in my area or for food insecurity. So if you have a teacher that's struggling but maybe isn't quite eligible for Boost grant, you can refer them to those resources or get them in touch with our Director of Teacher Success, Whitney Carper. She's fantastic and she's always available to help. But yeah, that's Boost is just, we're here. We're wanting to grow more. I said we've served 250 teachers since launching in 2024. So it's only been like a year and a half. So we're really excited about the impact that we've made already and looking forward to making even more of an impact this year in 2026.
Well, I just want to do some really quick math because, we can't have a talk about Hinge without doing some math. So if you're listening to this, I just want you to think about there are 250 teachers that Hinge is supported. And if each one of those teachers only supported 10 kids in a classroom, that means that there is now 2,500 kids who didn't lose their teacher because of stress and they had to leave, who were able to have a well-grounded teacher who was able to come back and continue with that program. And hopefully that makes you think just a little bit more, because I went with a pretty conservative classroom size on an average. And knowing that you now have helped 2,500 kids be able to not have their own version of stress because they've got a stressed out teacher, I think is just absolutely wonderful. And I think the fact that Hinge is continuing to have this impact is just an example of such a visionary goal from Hinge Advisors. And we are so excited to be able to share this. Carrie, people have listened to us. What do they need to do now?
Well, they need to go into the doobly-doo and they need to get the link so that they can go over to Boost and make their pledge. And they should look for ways that they can support the teachers in their program and in other programs in town. If you are one of our thousands of people listening from overseas, if your community needs something like this, reach out to Boost and say, hey, can you help us figure out what are the basics of how I set something like this up in South Africa? Because we know we've got listeners in South Africa, and we know that they have a similar issue in South Africa. Reach out to the folks at Boost and get sort of the template so that you can support the early childhood community in your town as well, or your country as well. This doesn't have to be a one and done. It can be done other places as well. So definitely go out, take action, whether that's making sure you know what the criteria is so that if you have a family at your program who needs the support, or make that donation. Again, $5 a month can definitely make a difference if enough of us do that $5 a month. And I hope that you will share this show with someone else who needs to know and come back for another conversation in a few days.
Thanks for tuning in. We love bringing you real talk and fresh insight from the world of early childhood education. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all of the latest episodes. And if you're planning a conference, training, or special event, Kate and Carrie would love to speak to your audience. You can learn more about their keynote sessions and workshops at kateandcarrie.com. If you learned something today, share the show and leave us a review below. We'll see you next time on Childcare Conversations.